Hello, my name is Mr. Polk and welcome to my kitchen. Today we want to take a look at making garlic mashed potatoes. And what I have here is I have red potatoes that I cut up into little 3/4, 1-inch dice, large dice. And then I put them in boiling water. I cooked them maybe 10-15 minutes so they're tender. So you want them that they're tender, that they're going to mash. And then we're going to transfer them to the KitchenAid mixer. So as soon as they became tender, fork tender as we call it, that you put a fork into them, it goes in easy and they break. I then drained them in the sink. Didn't rinse them, just drained them. And now they're able to go right into the bowl of the mixer. Now if you're using a KitchenAid, you can use that or a hand mixer, or you can even just mix them by hand. But I'm going to put them in here and we're going to start mixing them up and making some mashed taters. Okay, so here you can see the potatoes, the reds with the skins on, that'll give color, are in the mixer. I put the butter in first, and I'm going to work my way up to about 2, and I'm using the paddle, okay, because we still want to actually break the potatoes down before we try to whip them. And the butter went in. I always put the butter in first because the heat of the potatoes needs to soften the butter. Then we can go ahead and add our cream. I'm going to turn it off, and I'm going to put in about half of the cream to start. And one trick is I already warmed the cream up so it doesn't drop the temperature of everything. It's one thing if you're making these to reheat, but if you're making them to serve at dinner, you want to keep everything hot. So now I got them zipping around. I'm going to go ahead and add our garlic powder. Put about a teaspoon of garlic powder. You're probably going to want to add some more. I put in a little bit of white pepper, and I'll put in just a touch of some salt, and then get that zipping again. Now I'm going to scrape them. You can see they scrape down really nicely. Now I'm going to bring them around one more time till about 4. What I'm looking for here is to get out any of the lumps. They're starting to get kind of stiff again, so I can slowly pour in just a little bit of cream to loosen them up. And now is where you want to switch. So now we're going to shut it down, and we're going to remove the paddle attachment, and then we're going to switch it with the whisk. You don't want to start with the whisk because the potatoes can ruin it, but now you can switch to it. So we start on 2, 4, take it up to 6, and here's where you can decide how fluffy you want them. If you want to make them a little fluffy or a little looser, you can add a little bit more of that cream. It may not take all the cream. You make them as fluffy as you want. And then you go ahead and season them if you want them to taste a little more pepper, a little more salt, a little more garlic. That's up to you. Okay, before we plate our mashed potatoes, I just want to show you how to make a simple gravy or a simple Julienne sauce. And this is just a beef stock. You could either have rendered it from your beef or purchased the beef stock. It's about a cup. And then what I want to show you is how to thicken it using cornstarch. So I have here about a tablespoon of cornstarch, and I have about a 1/4 cup of water, cold water. And you put the cornstarch into the water, and you whisk it up to make a slurry. You never want to just put cornstarch directly into the liquid. That's where you get the lumps. So once I whisk it all together and I've made the slurry, I now have my liquid boiling, and I'm going to go ahead and whisk and slowly pour in the slurry. Okay? And then once I do that, I then need to let it come back up to a boil. You have to remember that the thickening process is not going to happen until it comes back up to a boil, and that's the way it works with the starches. So you whisk it, you're going to see that it thickens a little bit, and you can see the steam, and it doesn't take one to come back to a boil, and you can see that I'm starting to see some bubbles on the edges. All right, you see it's starting to thicken. I can feel it with my whisk that it's getting thick, and you just keep stirring. See how if I go back and forth in the pot, you can see that it's thickening the gravy or the Julienne sauce, and then we just want to take it until it thickens. Now, once it comes to a boil, if you wanted to simmer it, you could. All right, but you need to take it to that boil. As I see now, it's starting to come up on the edges. The boil's starting to come up on the middle. And you want to stir it when that happens because you don't want it to just thicken on the bottom and then it's going to burn. And then once it starts to bubble, now we got some heat going. You just keep cooking it until it's as thick as you want it. And one little trick you can do is if you make your stock, so we have the beef stock here, we put in the 1/4 cup of water, the tablespoon of cornstarch, and now we're trying to thicken it into a gravy. You can see it cooking really nicely there. If you want, I definitely do this with poultry gravy. You can add a touch of cream, just a little bit like that, and it just adds to the creaminess of the gravy. So if you want it to be more of a creamy brown gravy, you can add a touch of cream. If you want it to be, a traditional Julienne without cream, you can do that. That's totally up to you. So now let's take a look at plating our mashed potatoes. Okay, so let's look at one way to plate these. And these are really nice mashed potatoes. They're nice and fluffy. They have really nice color with letting the skins on. And one option is obviously just put them on a plate or put them in a bowl. But one way that you can plate them on a plate that is really nice is you put them in a ring mold like this and then just press it smooth and then just release it. And you have a really nice mold of the mashed potatoes. And you can do a lot with that. You could put something over top of it. You could layer, the meat on an angle or something like that. But here we just, have our mashed potatoes to show. And take your sauce, your Julienne sauce, whether you made it straight or you decided to add a little cream to it. And you can, drizzle some of that right on top of there. Let it run down. And then you can also go ahead and do the plating trick where you just kind of drizzle and run around the edges and just have a really nice side plate there. Like sometimes meals come in all their little side plates. And then to top this off, you could obviously add some parsley and you can also put on a couple fresh chives. Okay? You can put a little bit of fresh parsley on there. So there you can see how you can make really nice mashed potatoes. Use the reds. You can use other flavors, other colors. I like the reds because of the skin, and then you can put them in the mold and make your gravy and have everything look great. So thanks for cooking with me today, and I can't wait to cook with you real soon right here in Mr. Polk's Kitchen.